Welcome everybody. I'm Boo Lee, and welcome to The Way It Was. We live right here in Houston, Texas, on a historical ground. Why is the historical ground? Because this is the first place and the first church, black church in Houston, Texas, ANTIOCH Baptist Church, where the Reverend Jack Yates was the first minister. This church started in 1875, and Reverend Jack Yates, that's what we know him as, but his real name was Reverend John Henry Jack Yates. And this is the church that he ministered to, right here at ANTIOCH. This was not only a church, this was a school where Reverend Jack Yates educated blacks that could afford to come out of the fields. We are right here in 4th Ward, but now it's called downtown. But when this church is already 139 years old, that's right, 139 years old, ANTIOCH. And we will take you and let you understand how to, not only Reverend Henry Jack Yates, his members called him Reverend Jack Yates. And when this church opened up, Reverend Jack Yates used it also as an educational place to educate the blacks who could afford to stay out of the fields, because this is slavery. This is when slaves first came out here. That's why they call this place over here Freedom Town. And Reverend Jack Yates educated out of his ministry, and during them days, black only knew how to make an X for their signature. And Reverend Jack Yates started here in 1875. For 15 years, he educated people until they opened up the first colored high school, which was called Colored High School. But we know it as Booker T. Washington. So stay with me. We got a lot to cover here. This is going to be a very interesting show. We'll start having a show called The Way It Was, because this is the way it was here. This wasn't downtown. This was 4th Ward. This was Freedom Town. This is the place where the slaves came at when they came to Houston. And I will let you know about everything as we go. I would also let you know about how they built around this church, how the Allen family, who started Houston, they discovered Houston. People don't know this. They discovered Houston, the Allen family. And also, the Allen family have built this whole center around here. The Allen family wanted to buy this church in the early 80s. Because they had, I told you, that's 2 Allen Center. That's the Allen family. They had a vision way back in the early 70s. The Allen family vision. That's why they wanted to buy that property over there, to make a complete circle. And that's what they did. They made a complete circle. All of this is the Allen family. The building, I don't know about that, but the property, I do know. All right, yeah, I'm finna leave now. I'm doing this part of the church over here. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm going over there now. Yeah, that's why I got it early in the morning, so it wouldn't be in the traffic way. At ANTIOCH Baptist Church, the first black church here in Houston, Texas. The church is 139 years old. Like I say, the first pastor and organized education was the Reverend John Henry Jack Yates. And when he started organizing blacks to learn how to, 3 things he taught at his school here at Antioch. Really reading, writing, and spelling. And then later, most of all started arithmetic. So it was RWS and arithmetic. He did that for 15 years right here at Antioch Church. And then 15 years, the whites finally gave us our first high school, which was called Colored, because that's what we was, colored people. Colored High School. Right here, right down the street, in 4th Ward, right here. And Colored High School later became Booker T. Washington. And as it grew in attendance, later in 1926, they decided to build another high school over here. And this time, they decided to show Reverend Jack Yates how much they appreciate him not only being a minister, but an educator too. So they built the school on Elgin, and they named it after him, the Reverend Jack Yates, and the school became Jack Yates High School over on Elgin. Later on became Ryan. And the first principal there at Jack Yates was James D. Ryan. Mr. Ryan was the first principal there at the new Jack Yates over on Elgin. And the first football coach over there was Mr. William Holland. Then when Reverend Jack Yates died, he passed it on to Mr. Holland, became Jack Yates' principal. Mr. Holland went out of his way to make sure Yates would have a good, solid football team. He went out of his way and went to Chicago to Negro Baseball League and got a man there called Pat Patterson. And Coach Patterson became Jack Yates' football coach when Mr. Holland became Jack Yates' principal. And then in 1958, when the Yates was getting so crowded that a white man out of Sunnyside in Brazoria County named Mr. Evan E. Worthy decided to build them a school out there for them because he got tired of seeing the black kids walk to school, catch the bus, those who couldn't afford to catch the bus. And he decided to build them a school out there so they wouldn't have to go way to 3rd Ward to school. And the Houston Independent School District gave him that credibility by naming that school after him. That's why you have Evan E. Worthy. But then before Worthy, right after Yates, which was the second high school, the people on the north side did not have a school. So they built a school on the north side on Lyons Avenue that later became, we know it as E.O. Smith. But when it first was built, it was built as Phyllis Wheatley on Lyons Avenue, where the late but never forgotten Barbara Jordan finished from that Wheatley. And then later, they built a new Wheatley over on Market Street. And this time they decided to let McFarland was the superintendent here in Houston. He decided to let Dr. Caldwell open that new Phyllis Wheatley School because Dr. Caldwell was a big football star here at Booker T. Washington. And he also had a degree of being a doctor. So McFarland let him open up that new school out on Market Street, Phyllis Wheatley, where my good friend Mickey Leland finished from. So now we got 3 black schools. Booker T. Washington is still out here in 4th Ward. They getting crowded, so therefore they built them a new school out there in Studewood on 39th. And of course, Yates was overcrowded. They built them a school in Sunnyside for Worthing in 58. Then Wheatley was so big. Wheatley was the biggest high school in the United States. Wheatley was so big they had to take turns going to school. They had breaks. Everybody couldn't go to Wheatley at the same time. That's the people on the north side. That's the only school they had. Then in 1957, HISD and McFarland and them decided, hey, let's build a school for these white kids. So blacks was moving in so fast over there in Cashmere Garden and Trinity Garden. So they decided to say, well, let's don't give it to the whites because there's too many blacks over here. That's why you got Cashmere. And those are our 5 original black schools. Now don't let nobody tell you nothing different. These are 5 black schools before integration came. And then we had some what they call smaller schools. They had smaller attendance and they was in what they call 3A. Those 5 major schools was in 5A. And then 3A, you had a school out there in City Gas called BC Elmo. Then you had one out there in Fidelity Manor was called Fidelity Manor. Then you had one out there in Acres Home that was called Aldine Carver. But those are our original black schools. And young black people need to know this. And us older generation, we need to tell them this because there's no sense of us going in our grave with all of this information that we can share with these young people. So when it got started, those were the schools. And the biggest problem came with Mr. Holland. Mr. Holland was one of the blacks that would speak his mind. We only had one black person on the school board, and that was Miss Hattie White. That's why they got the HISD school district building named after her. And she couldn't do it all by herself. So Mr. Holland was a man who spoke his word, and he wasn't afraid of white people. And McFarland would call him one of the smart niggers. He was too smart. He know too much. He wasn't a yes man. So when they built the new Yates over on Sampson Street, they did not take Mr. Holland over there to be the principal. McFarland took his best friend, just to show you how white people try to keep us fighting among each other. And they still doing it, but they're doing it in a sophisticated way that you have to look at it real close to pay attention. But McFarland took Dr. Caldwell from Phyllis Wheatley and made him take this job over here at Jack Yates. He knew the people in 3rd Ward was going to be upset because Mr. Holland went there to open up the new school. So Dr. Caldwell did what he thought that was best for him to try to get him some protection among the angry blacks and the angry teachers that were so upset that he decided to get Mr. Alexander as his vice president to cover his back. Can't blame the man. Then he wanted to bring Frank Walker from Booker T, not from Booker T, from Phyllis Wheatley. He wanted to bring Frank Walker over here to be the new football coach at Jack Yates. But no, the athletic director say, hell no, it ain't happening. I'm the athletic director, and what I say, it goes. And Coach Pat Patterson go with Jack Yates or wherever in the hell he wanna go. So Coach Patterson chose to come over there to the new Yates to help keep the name Jack Yates alive. His best friend hired him, Mr. Holland. He hated to leave Mr. Holland. You can imagine, he hated to leave Mr. Holland because that's the one who brought him to Houston. But he had to make a choice. Coach Patterson had to make a choice. Whether or not he want to stay there with Mr. Holland, or whether or not he want to leave and keep the name Jack Yates alive. And how thankful, and how grateful we are to God for letting that man come and coach our football team. And how grateful we are for him to honor Jack Yates' name, to leave his friend, Mr. Holland, to come over here to the new school to honor Jack Yates, the Reverend.